So Super Rugby round 10 Saturday games are all in the bag. It's not been a great weekend, or a great couple of days anyway, for the Aussie Conference. The Waratahs went down pretty poorly on the Friday, and now Sunwolves, Reds and Rebels have all gone down along with the Stormers. So yeah, a few interesting results. Some of the margins pretty surprising. Sunwolves especially, I think, were predicted to be beaten by a lot more than what they got beaten by. And Shark Stormers won actually pretty close right up until the end. So we'll start with the Crusaders and the Sunwolves. Crusaders take them down 33 points to 11. 2 tries to Ryan Crotty, 1 to Matt Todd, Mata Ele and Stratton all on the board. For the Sunwolves, just the 1 try to Michael Little. So, I mean, if you watch this game, the Crusaders just started with a bang. I mean, they scored within 56 seconds. Which, I mean, compared to the Highlanders against the Blues, that's pretty slow. It's like a whole nother 20 seconds. But it just looked like it was going to go really pear-shaped really early for the Sunwolves in this one. Within, 8 minutes, it was 14-0. I mean, if you're scoring at more than a point a minute, it looks like you're going to be on the end of a pretty big hiding. But to their credit, the Sunwolves actually did come into the game. They didn't just let 2 tries early on overwhelm them. That they settled down, and within the 14th minute they scored a try. They missed the conversion, but that just kind of stopped the flow of points in the Crusaders' way. And then if you watched it, it was kind of a ridiculous scene. The heavens just opened. There was hail, there was heavy rain and lightning. It was crazy. There was talk in the commentary about potentially the game being delayed if the thunderstorms got too close to the ground. It didn't end up happening, but that probably had a bit of an effect on the scoreline. Although I wouldn't have said that the handling was all that bad given the conditions. It was just really atrocious weather. I'm pretty glad I wasn't down in Christchurch for that one. The Crusaders scrum, as expected, really dominant over the Sunwolves, even with a Georgian at hooker. Kind of not enough to stop that Crusaders machine just kind of driving forward. But still, after that first kind of 14-point blitz, the Crusaders were a bit scrappy. And not all of it can be blamed on the conditions. Just some of their execution was poor. And I think whilst they got the win, the coaching staff will definitely be having a hard look at some of the errors they were making in that game. The Sunwolves, interestingly, were really desperate in defence. There were a few times when they got a turnover 5 metres out from their own line. They pushed a maul from it, the Crusaders did a line-out move, and the mauled it up. You're thinking the Crusaders are going to walk all over them. Crusaders got pushed into touch by the Sunwolves. Just that kind of thing. Stuff that we don't really associate with the Sunwolves. We kind of think once the team gets within their 22, there's going to be some guys falling off some tackles and maybe a try, a decent chance of a try. But they were really up to the task for much of the game. The Crusaders were scoreless for ages, from this 8th minute until 50th minute or 56th minute. So it's a long period of time that the Crusaders didn't score any points. It was quite astounding, given that they were predicted to be winning this game by close to 40 points. Some Wolves themselves even had a few chances within the Crusaders 5 metres, kind of 5 metres from the Crusaders line. Some Wolves weren't without chances, but Crusaders' defence also looked pretty firm. So it was at times looking a bit like the Sunwolves guys were a bit out of ideas as to how to finally crack the defence open. I guess they just needed a bit of spark, and it wasn't quite happening for them. The scoreline, 33 points. There was one last try at the end, which makes it look a bit further out than the game may have actually been. I know that the Sunwolves were defending for large periods, but if they'd managed to keep the Crusaders below 30 points, you'd even say it's a moral victory to the Sunwolves. Even the Blues would be pretty happy going down to Christchurch and only losing 25-11, but 33-11 is the final score. Crusaders get their desired result. But at home, you'd think that they would have wanted a lot more than that. And I'm taking the conditions into account. The Crusaders still left a lot of points out there. Some parts where they weren't particularly vintage Crusaders. But I guess that's the whole thing, that they played a lot of their second string guys. So some of the combinations probably weren't there. Just some of the skill levels probably not quite as high as this first string guys. A few young guys like Ethan Blackadder got a game. You know, and these guys will improve with time. So it's probably a good chance to blood them and get them into Super Rugby. We'll see how they go, you know, in future once they've got a bit more experience. For the Sunwolves, they definitely saved face. So, you know, if they got beaten by 80 points to 10, there'd be more clamouring to kick them out of the comp. But I think, as I said, a lot of teams going into Christchurch and getting that result would not feel totally disgraced. So, yeah, it was competitive for most of the game. So, if nothing else, that is a good kind of moral victory for the Sunwolves in this one. As I said, if it had been 20-odd, it would have been even more so. But, yeah, it is what it is. Crusaders bonus point win. In the next one, oh, I should mention, who do they go on and play? I haven't written it down. Look it up later. The Reds went down to the Chiefs, 36 points to 12, in a pretty one-sided battle for much of the game. So tries to Ardron, Ngatai, Retallick, Polwit, and Takiaho. And for the Reds, it was just the two for Karevi. So yeah, 36 points to 12. Basically, the first half of this game was watch the Reds players tackle the Chiefs, because that's all that was happening. I don't know how much. The stats were pretty ridiculous. Like the Chiefs had run 300 odd meters to the Reds like 50. It was, yeah, it was all possession, all territory for the Chiefs. And the Red scrum, which I talked about before the game, was not really having the desired effect on the Chiefs. The Chiefs were holding despite being down to what level of prop they're at now, like their 4th or 5th string kind of guys. Red scrum was even penalised a couple of times. So, yeah, probably disappointing from that aspect for the Reds. It's one of their kind of main weapons that wasn't really able to function as perhaps desired. Damien McKenzie went off early in this one. He looked pretty distraught. I haven't read what the updates are on him yet, but we'll be watching his injury with interest. The Chiefs even blew a couple of tries in this first half. I mean, the halftime score, 24-0, and they blew a couple of tries. It was looking pretty bad for the Reds. You know, the Chiefs scored in 6th minute, and then 12th minute, blew a try in the 15th minute, scored a try in the 16th minute. It was really one-sided in that first half, and if you were in the stands at Suncorp, you might have been tempted to leave. But to their credit, the Reds did really improve in the second half. Thankfully, they got their hands on some ball. But even though they were able to even out most of the stats, like territory possession, all these meters, they just didn't have that cutting edge to score. And that's the main difference. So when the Chiefs had that upper hand with the possession in the territory, they converted it into points. Reds just not able to do so. And I mean, if there's one thing that you'd be critical of their side for this year, even though it's a young side, they're still learning, developing, it's they've not been able to put on a lot of points. And yeah, that showed. They just, Karevi is an exception, and Dalgunu looks like he's got a bit of potential, but they do lack a bit of kind of X factor to get them over, just to make the difference and turn an attack into a scoring play. For the Reds, it's another loss at home. Well, it's another loss, and this one's at home. Yeah, I think we kind of have to accept that Brad Thorne's project that he's kind of underway in Queensland is a long-term one. Even though they had a good little run, it's not going to be a magic kind of wave your magic wand and suddenly they're a championship winning team. It's definitely going to take some time. I think we can see the progress is there, but yeah, it's still not quite there yet. We'll give these guys time. For the Chiefs, they were lucky to get a bonus point late on, to be honest. when Karevi had that second try, it was 4 tries to 2, so no bonus point for the Chiefs, and it wasn't even look like I was thinking, are the Chiefs throwing away a bonus point? But then in the back of my mind, I was telling myself, no, this is the Reds just getting back into the game. It's not the Chiefs throwing anything away. There may even be a bit of a question on, depth at the Chiefs, because they got so many second string guys starting. You're having to put the third string guys on, or even deeper into the kind of ranks. That maybe that's when we're starting to see the bit of parity in the game. So as guys come off, you're putting your third or fourth string guys on, and then they're not quite at the same level, so that the Reds, really push their way back into the game. So the Reds look like taking that bonus point away from the Chiefs rather than the Chiefs throwing it away, but they managed to pull it off kind of like way past 80 minutes. So Takiaho got that last try. They get the bonus point, which is good for them because New Zealand Conference is so cutthroat, but it'll be a bit concerning the way that they let kind of what was a pretty comfortable scoreline end up being not close, but it was tighter than it needed to be at one point. So the Reds go on to face the Lions, which after their performance against the Waratahs looks to be a tough one, and the Chiefs get a rest, so they go on the bye. So yeah, a big result for the Chiefs, and Reds just need to keep on doing what they're doing because, as I said, it's a bit of a project. The next one, the Bulls got a really important win over the Rebels, 28 points to 10. So tries to Strauss, who just can't keep out of the tries recently. Creel, Rousseau, and Warner. The Rebels were just the 1 try to Ruru. So this one, it started off pretty scrappy, and the Bulls were applying a lot of pressure to the Reds. The Bulls didn't have that much territory, but when they got the ball, they did look sharper than the Rebels at that point. So the Rebels missed a few points from the boot, and the Bulls just turned down points. They just had this mindset that no, we're going for touch in this game. We're going to beat them, and we're going to get a bonus point. That seemed to be the mindset. I guess John Mitchell had gone in kind of with that plan. So yeah, it just kind of was the way they set out, and it was the way they just continued on the game. It wasn't like it changed at any point. So Strauss got the fairly early try when they finally put the Rebels under some pressure after finally getting some territory in possession. Bulls scrum dominant, or at least had the upper hand over the Rebels in this one. Both sides lineouts were not optimal. Kind of, they weren't fantastic, despite the Bulls having a pretty good hooker and a couple of really good locks. So yeah, not optimal for them. The Bulls, yeah, like I said about just going for touch, it was a lot of high risk, high reward stuff, which we don't necessarily associate with the Bulls of old, but under John Mitchell, yeah, this just seems to be the way that they're going sometimes. The Rebels, I think if you wrote their first half off because it was 21-3 at halftime, they definitely improved in the second half, but late in the second half, they seemed to be tired. I don't know if it was conditioning. I don't know if it was just the altitude, but they really seemed knackered at the end of this game and didn't have much in them. Like that try from Warner, it was just a quick tap, and the Rebels weren't organised, just tired. It was, 72 minutes or something like that? So, yeah, I don't know what the reason was, but it was not a good look for the Rebels right at the end. But also, I should mention injuries, man. The injuries for the Rebels looked pretty bad in that game. Both their hookers seemed to be not in great shape. Halfbacks could be a problem with Guinea out, and Rue looked a bit sore. So, yeah, at the end, the scrums were uncontested. There were a lot of stoppages, and game lacked a bit of flow, but that was just with guys going down all the time. So, yeah, it wasn't always pretty. but there were a few pretty good moments in this game. For the Bulls, it's a pretty important win because the Lions picked up a bonus point win away from home, so at least the Bulls don't fall any further behind. They kind of keep up with the pace, especially at home. And the Pretoria fans will be happy, of course, having not had that much to cheer about over recent years. It's a good victory. The Rebels, man, losses starting to add up, injuries starting to add up. This tour, although it's only a couple of games, is already starting to look really long. So we will see how they go. The Bulls have got the Highlanders at home next week, which will be a big test because, like I said, the Lions got a win on tour. They got the Reds. They'll probably be the favourites for that one. The Bulls will have to beat another New Zealand team. And the Rebels go away to the Stormers, which, based on this final result, could be a pretty interesting one. Right, so the final one, we've got the Sharks and the Stormers. The Sharks taking it up 24 points to 17. Sharks tries to Lucanio Jean-Luc Dupria and Thomas Dutoit. Stormers the 2 tries to Rule and Samuels. So yeah, this one had a lot of interest in the build-up just because of their similar records. Both teams kind of seem to be having not punched at the weight that their potential had. But early on, this game was pretty much all the Sharks. But surprisingly, the Sharks only managed to kick like one from the first 3 penalties. So Rob Dupria missed one, and he's had a pretty reliable boot. And Kieran Bosch missed one that was kind of a more of a long-range one, which would have put a bit of early pressure on the Stormers, having had so much dominance. But it was only 3 points, so the Stormers were hanging on in there. And then yeah, the Stormers managed to score the first try of the game from Raymond Rule from Khaleesi's offload, which was pretty magic. And I thought at that point this might be a turning point because the Sharks have been dominant. They've only managed to get 3 points. The Stormers have held on, and now that the Stormers have gone the other way and scored 7, you know, Sharks guys maybe getting their heads down, starting to let some thoughts creep into their heads. So it might be a turning point. Ended up not being. It was good to see him at Pimpy running with ball in hand. That guy, I wish he would play more. I'm not sure what the selection is with the Sharks, but I would have him. I'm sure Rob Dupree as a senior is a lot smarter man than me, but I just like watching Mapimpi run. And although he didn't get a try, he was still at his best for a few moments in this game anyway. For a long while, this game was 2 teams playing it pretty safe. There was a bit of kind of force back where they were just kicking it to each other. It was like watching tennis or something. And yeah, neither team really wanted to make a mistake. But it was when the Stormers kind of finally showed their hand and the great offloads that they scored that try. So it was kind of like somebody has to take a chance here, and it's either going to pay off or they're going to get punished for it. And the Stormers took the chance, and it looked like, as I said, the momentum was going to be with them. But no, it didn't end up happening. It was always a bit of back and forward. It was tied up until like the 72nd minute. It was still 17-all. So it was really down to the wire, this one. Neither team wanted to lose it. It was just a question of who was going to put their hand up to win it. And in this case, it was the Sharks with that big Thomas Dutoit try. But yeah, for them, it is a big win. The Stormers, even at the death, had a chance to go for the draw. They had a couple of penalties. Went for the maul. The commentator said maybe go for the scrum, but they went for the maul, and it just didn't pay off for them in the end. So yeah, big win for the Sharks. It's going to kind of appease the fan base a bit because after last week's performance, they needed something to smile about. And because it was such a nail-biter, it's kind of a bit extra sweet. Like if you're a Crusaders fan having beaten the Sunwolves 33-11, that's fine. But if you're a Sharks fan having held on in the 80-whatever minute to win it, it's just that bit more sweet because there was actually a chance you lose it. It's a local rival, that kind of thing. But for the Sharks, man, they just need to find some consistency. More wins, please. Get it going on a kind of regular basis, and don't show us that kind of Jekyll and Hyde thing that's been going on of late. For the Stormers, Man, with the Lions and Bulls getting wins, is that it? Is that it for the Stormers? Maybe. They would have to put on a pretty magic end of season, like second half of the season, to get anything out of the season. Because, yeah, at the moment it looks like they're going to be more trying to avoid the South African Conference wooden spoon than to be challenging for a playoff spot. So it's another away loss. They go back home next week. They have played a lot of away games. I think they've really got the hardest schedule and injuries, but it's another loss. They've got the Rebels at home next week, so they'll be targeting that one. The Sharks have got the bye. I should mention in this game that although there was a lot of back and forth, the moments with the tries were magic. There was probably more magic in this game than any of the other games, maybe. Just the offloads, the skill sets were really, really top notch. Kind of wish more of the game had been like that, because when they put things on show, it was really good. So yeah, if you haven't seen the highlights for the Sharks Stormers one, it's probably worth a 5-minute watch, because there was some really, really good skill levels on display. Right, so that's the results. What did you guys reckon? Can the Brumbies salvage the Aussie Conference week with a win over the Jaguares today? Maybe, but otherwise I think that was pretty much all the favourites winning, and yeah, a bit surprising that some of the results were as close as they were. Alright guys, that's it from me, and I will talk to you again for the Jaguares Brumbies result sometime tomorrow. See you later.